March 15th, in the year 44 BC, at the base of the Curia in the theater of Pompeii, the legendary Gaius Julius Caesar, dictator of Rome, was assassinated by a group of senators. In the months leading up to the assassination, Caesar and the Senate were involved in a good old-fashioned power struggle. In an effort to appease Caesar, the Senate named him dictator for life, and ancient historians say that a sizable portion of the public wanted him to be an actual king. Caesar had been warned by numerous acquaintances to beware the Ides of March. Maybe he should have listened. Today we're going to take a look at the Romans who helped kill Julius Caesar. However, he was extremely dedicated to fanning the flames of unrest against his ex-brother-in-law. They were once very close, but by the day before the assassination, Cinna gave a vitriolic speech against Caesar. Once the deed had been done, the public associated Cinna with the attack. A mob ran through the city looking for him, and when they found him, they took him out. The only problem was, they got the wrong Cinna. The man the mob whacked was a poet named Helvius Cinna, while Lucius Cornelius Cinna got away and managed to live another 40 years. In 44 BCE, Caesar made Tilius Cimber the governor of Pontus and Bithynia, which should tell you something about the kind of respect Caesar had for Cimber. At the same time, Caesar stubbornly refused to issue a pardon to Cimber's exiled brother, who had been a supporter of Pompey. This refusal is likely a big part of what convinced Cimber to join the conspiracy. However, that's why Cassius stabbed Caesar right in the noggin during the attack. Cassius was defeated at Philippi along with Brutus. History records that when he saw Brutus's forces overcome, he had himself decapitated by a nearby freeman. Brutus took it hard. He called Cassius the last of the Romans and had him buried on the island of Thasos before returning to the battle and meeting his own fate. In Shakespeare, when Caesar says, "Et tu, Brute," it's clear who he's talking to, but in real life, it might not have been. There were actually two Brutuses. Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, however, is the decidedly less famous Brutus. He was Caesar's right-hand man during the conquest of Gaul and had become something like a little brother to the dictator. Despite this, he was one of the masterminds behind the plot. Why did Decimus turn against his friend? It's believed that Decimus didn't feel aptly rewarded for his loyalty. History does not record how or when Cimber died, although many historians believe it's likely he met his end along with the others at Philippi. There were two Brutuses, so why not two Cassiuses, right? We know that Parmenides once taunted Octavian for being the grandson of a baker and a money changer. In a letter he said, "Your mother's meal came from a vulgar bake shop of Aricia. This is a money changer from Nerulum, kneaded into shape with hands stained with filthy lucre." This is possibly the oldest recorded mama diss in history. Having survived 13 years after the death of Caesar, Parmenides was able to make a name for himself as a writer. He wrote numerous plays, and while none have survived, the titles of two, Thyestes and Brutus, are still known today. Eventually, Parmenides became allies with Sextus Pompey, the son of Pompey the Great, a mistake that would prove to be his downfall. In 31 BC, Sextus was defeated at the Battle of Actium by Octavian. Parmenides was executed, making him the last of Caesar's assassins to be taken out. Galba served under Caesar in eastern Gaul, and Caesar blamed him for nearly losing a legion in the winter of 57 BC. Servilius stabbed Caesar first, but his brother Gaius Casca was second. The writer Nicolaus of Damascus tells us that Servilius excitedly called to his brother in Greek to get in on the fun. Gaius obliged by driving his sword into Caesar's side, and it is believed that this wound was likely the one that ended Caesar. The most famous of the assassins was Marcus Junius Brutus, whose name was immortalized in the quote, "Et tu, Brute?" which translates to, "And you too, Brutus." If you're impressed by how eloquent Caesar was while being repeatedly stabbed to death, don't be. These words were actually written by William Shakespeare. For the record, two different ancient historians, Plutarch and Suetonius, both report that Caesar said nothing as he died. As far as anyone can tell, his last words, delivered in Latin at the beginning of the attack, were, "Casca, you villain, what are you doing?" Shakespeare did have a source, though. He was rephrasing something he found in an ancient account which reported a rumor that Caesar's last words were "Kai su teknon," or "You too, my child." Some have taken this to indicate that Brutus was Caesar's biological son. This would make sense since Brutus's mother, Servilia, was in fact Caesar's mistress. One man, Aquila, really hated Caesar. One time, when Caesar was receiving a public honor, Aquila refused to rise for him. Caesar, in one of the earliest recorded acts of trolling, spent the next few days refusing to make promises to anyone without adding, "That is, if Pontius Aquila will allow me." It was infuriating to Aquila, but you've got to admit that it is kind of funny, in a very ancient Roman way. After Caesar was taken out, Aquila became one of Antony's lieutenants and is recorded as having been killed in a battle by Aulus Hirtius's forces during the siege of Mutina. Yet another inauspicious ending for one of the conspirators who helped take out the great and mighty Julius Caesar.